Welcome to the Found Her podcast. I'm Kelsey.
And I'm Shannon.
And we are the filmmaker, photographer, and co-founders of Found Her Productions. Together, we capture the essence of women so they can communicate their truth with confidence and ease.
Through working with our clients, we've learned that each of their stories are so unique and, to our surprise, mostly nonlinear. We believe these stories deserve to be heard to inspire women along their own journey to finding themselves and creating the life that they truly desire.
This podcast is where badass, trailblazing boss ladies will expose the ups, the downs, and everything else involved in creating their own path in work and in life.
So sit back, get comfy, and get ready to be inspired. Okay, welcome back to the Found Her podcast. Today we'll be interviewing one of our amazing clients, Carrie Fisher. Carrie is originally from South Africa and is now based out of Toronto. She recently packed up a successful career in the floral industry to launch a brand new career as a painter. And as if that's not exciting enough, we recently discovered that Carrie is also training to become a professional consultant through the Proctor Gallagher Institute. If you're not sure what that means, don't worry, we'll chat more about that with Carrie, along with lots of other fun things. But before we dive in, I'm going to pass the mic to my business spouse, Kelsey, to tell you a bit more about how we originally connected with Carrie.
I love the casual use of business spouse there, Shannon. Late last year, when Carrie reached out to work with us to create content for her painting practice, we were so impressed to learn that she was just very fresh into the process of shifting her creative career from her floral business to her now painting practice. And because she is such a seasoned entrepreneur, she knew where it was important to invest her resources with her new business right off the hop so she could show up like a boss right away. And now Carrie is launching yet another career, and she just makes this whole process look so easy. And we think she's so courageous and such a great example of creating and following your own path. So, good morning, Carrie.
Good morning.
Welcome. How are you today?
I'm doing so well. This is so exciting. As you know,
Yay.
I always gush with you.
Well, we do with you as well, so the feelings are mutual.
Yes, that's a great segue into the way we'd like to start things out today, which is by inviting you to brag about something you're feeling especially proud of right now. It can be anything at all. There's no win that is too big or too small. The brag spotlight is something we have each of our guests do with the purpose of normalizing women speaking out proudly and confidently about their accomplishments. We think that when you shine your light, you allow others to shine theirs too. So Carrie, spotlight's on you. Let's have it.
Okay. Perfect. I mean, I was writing about this morning in my journal. I like to acknowledge a win every day.
Oh, nice.
Just to sort of, I feel like you guys understand that, when you're moving forward and growing so much, you tend to forget how far you've come. So I was actually writing about a big win this morning. I think my biggest win right now is how much I've stepped into this bigger version of myself. I mean, I've been, I don't know, focused on, personal development and mindset work for like 15 months now. And I've just realized I'm operating from this place of who I ultimately want to become. And I'm like, I am her. Or at least I'm believing that I am her right now. So, I want to acknowledge that. I want to just acknowledge how the win of just showing up and being my C-type self and believing that I'm capable of anything and I'm enjoying the process of having fun. It's easy. That's my win, my new belief system, and just living it right now.
Oh my gosh, I have goosebumps. That's amazing.
That is amazing. Can you back up just a little bit? You mentioned the term C-type self, and I'd love for you
just gonna say that.
to give a little context as to what that means for anyone that's not sure.
For sure. And it's funny because I know that you guys know what C-type self is because we I know you through the work of discovering what a C-type self is. But it's essentially the ultimate version of yourself, who you ultimately want to become in life, based on your belief system, based on your accomplishments, based on how you view yourself and others and the world around you. I mean, I don't know if other people have like a vision board, but I do, and it's like loaded with C-type qualities. It's it's got my family, it's got my dream home, it's got my dream profession, like painted out in visuals. In essence, it's it's your like higher self, essentially.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Very empowering. It's a very empowering, position to be in.
Yes, it is.
So what's your C-type self up to these days? Yes. What are you working on?
Who is she?
What aren't you working
on? I'm working on big things. I mean, so I met you guys obviously through mindset work, through Thinking into Results, the program that I've been studying for the past 15 months and grown to absolutely love, to the point where it's just taken me on this wild and wonderful journey of self-discovery. And my C-type self, it's just, I don't know, it's this beautiful feeling of like finally knowing where I'm going and who I am and where I should be. Actually, you know what? I retract that. Where I'm going is still this like beautiful blur of like, I don't totally know, but I'm very comfortable just being on the journey.
That can be a difficult thing, I think, to be comfortable with, but it's part of the process of getting there, the journey. And it's not always pretty.
No, it's not.
Do you have moments of discomfort on your journey ever, or is it always feeling easy for you?
Because you make it look so easy.
Yeah.
Do I?
You do.
Oh, you do. Yeah.
You know what? Is it very recently, like very, very recently, I decided to create an affirmation around everything I'm doing and everything I'm working towards is fun and it's easy. I just feel like I've made the error of assuming that it's going to be difficult before I even set out. And it becomes difficult. So I'm a big risk taker. I think that it's just always been in me to, I don't know, just like set big goals and go for them no matter what. I mean, when I first worked with you guys, you know that was a big, like I had to step up and create a different version of myself in order to do the shoot with you guys. It was way out of my comfort zone. And I approached it in the mindset of this is going to be so hard. This is going to be so hard. And it was very hard to get to the point where we actually like set up for the shoot. Up until very recently, when I've decided through affirmations that I was, things were just going to be, my whole approach was just going to be, it's fun and it's easy. And that is honestly, like that has completely changed my mindset and changed my whole vibration around everything that I'm doing lately is just fun and easy. But yeah, up until this point, when I've set big goals and taken big risks, I've allowed myself to think that it was, or just assuming that it was going to be difficult. And it was difficult. Terribly uncomfortable. Leading up to the first shoot that I did I say first shoot with you guys because I know there's going to be more. Leading up to that shoot was like terrifying to the point where I thought that I was going to have to reschedule the day before because I allowed myself to assume that it was bigger than me. And that was not true.
So how did you work through that? Because we didn't postpone the shoot. We ended up doing it the day that we were supposed to. You showed up.
I showed up because I know now through the mindset work that I do that postponing it would just allow for fear and worry and doubt to creep in, that I just had to tackle it right there and then. And I'm so glad I did. I mean, and that's just what I'm learning through this whole journey is, my God, we are so much more powerful than we allow ourselves to believe. And when we just go for it and we just do it, like, who cares? Like, let's imagine that I had, I mean, so I did the shoot with you guys, because I was stepping into this role as a contemporary painter. And I mean, you know, that I booked the shoot before I had even done a painting. Like that's how much
we love that so much about you.
Oh my God, I love that.
That's how much I was into just stepping into this bigger version of myself. But I mean, the night before the shoot, I painted over the painting that you were shooting. My husband said, cancel the shoot. It's fine. Just delay it. And I just knew that that was not the way to go. And I'm so glad that I didn't, because something much more powerful came over me, and I created the painting again. And I showed up on time the next day with all my pieces in place, and we just did it. And it was great. It was wonderful. And it actually had very little to do with the art. It had very little to do with the painting. It wasn't a promotional shoot to sell a painting. It was a promotional shoot for me and selling myself to me.
Oh my gosh.
So yeah, had I canceled it, whatever. I mean, no, that wasn't an option. Had I not had a painting, we would have just shot me, I guess.
Yeah.
We would have
with some
worked on it.
paintbrushes and I'd love to give a little context on your story. And I think a really interesting part of your story in particular is the shifting of careers and making those decisions, because that can be a really intimidating thing for people. And so it's always great to hear others' experiences with that. So before you hired us as Carrie, the contemporary painter, you were in the floral industry and running what seemed to be a very successful floral business. So tell us a little bit about what that was like and how you decided to kind of let that go and move into something else.
Sure. So I actually, funny, because this seems to be a trend through this chat, I guess. I had never believed that I could operate my own business. I come from a very successful family of like hospitality entrepreneurs. My dad and my brother are in hospitality, and they've always been very successful. And my dad's almost mentored my brother, but I sort of followed the path of my mom. She's an artist, stay-at-home mom. And I never believed that I could do what my brother does. And it took my mentor at the time to tell me, like, of course you can. Like, it was almost like such a ridiculous thought.
Why do you think you were believing that?
Because it was just all that I knew. Like, you know, I'm sure my dad loved me as much as my brother, but it was just they gravitated towards each other in this this familiarity, this love for hospitality and running a business. So maybe I didn't show up the same way that my brother did. So I didn't really give my dad the incentive to take me under his wing. So, you know, I went through 32 years of believing that I couldn't run a business, but always had this like feeling inside me that I wanted to, that I wanted more. And it took this mentor telling me, of course you can. And in that instant, I was like, okay, I have to prove it to myself. So I don't even know. I think maybe I was gardening at the time, so I had some relationship with flowers, and it was just like, that was what fell into my lap. So I pursued opening my own floral design business. I knew nothing about the industry. I knew nothing about flowers, to be honest. I took a 3-week class on floral design. Any of my florist friends listening to this now are probably like, ugh, rolling their eyes. Like, there's so much more. I know now there's so much more to floral design than a 3-week course. But I threw myself into it, and I did everything I needed to do to learn the industry. And And so 2 years into that business, I had my son, and my priorities changed. And I had grown so much already just from putting myself into an uncomfortable position of learning an industry and learning. It's a very, very difficult business as well. Floral design, event floral design especially.
Lots of variables in there, I would imagine, to consider for every project.
Absolutely. Like, it's physically very intense. You're working with people on their most emotional day.
Your materials have a lifespan you got to work with.
Exactly. Yeah, you're working with a perishable item under like extreme weather conditions. But anyway, the whole point of throwing myself into this new venture was for growth, to prove to myself that I could do it. But like I said, I had my son, my priorities changed, and I think I just started to, like, I had proven to myself that I could do it. And so over the years following the birth of my son, I started to just withdraw a little bit from the business. Flash forward to the pandemic, my industry changed completely, and I had to adapt, and I didn't want to continue with the floral industry. I was just like itching for more. So
didn't have the drive to adapt to the changes that were,
Exactly. So I knew I had to make another change, a big one. So.
Yeah. And so that's when you shifted into your painting.
Yes.
So why painting? Did you have a background in art, or what motivated that choice?
Yeah. I've always been an artist. I've always been creative. Both of my parents are artists. My mom is a brilliant artist. And so she taught me from a very young age how to draw and how to paint. And throughout my adult life, I dabbled with like every creative medium possible. And so I guess when the pandemic hit, in the middle of lockdown, we're all trying to decide how we're going to shift and adapt our businesses. Knowing that I just didn't have that fire in me anymore to just like make my floral business, I don't know, work under those changed conditions. I just thought, like, what can I do that's going to bring me closer to my family? I had given up so much time with my son and my husband because I worked almost every weekend as a florist.
Right.
I was like, what is going to just get me closer to what I really, truly want in life? And that was, I guess, it was a great fallback, I guess. Like, I love painting, and that was just the natural next step. So that's what I did. And very quickly, I made that transition because I've learned, as you guys know, that decision-making is huge. It collapses time. And so I just made that decision, and I shifted very quickly into a new practice.
That's amazing. Would you say that aside from quick decision making, there were other things that you gained from your experience having the floral business that you were able to translate over to your business as a contemporary artist?
I basically learned that I could do anything. Floral design is so intense. You have to be so patient and so quick on your feet. You have to just course correct so quickly. I realized that that I had a love for helping people and for helping them during stressful situations where they really had no idea how to navigate out of what I knew as a simple situation, because I had done it so often as a florist. Like, I knew exactly how the day was going to go in terms of the flowers. But I think that's what I actually loved the most about being a florist. When I say that anything could have fallen into my lap and it just happened to be flowers, I loved the creative, like all that I learned creatively as a florist, but it was essentially the relationship building and my time with other vendors and other florists and my wonderful clients. I learned that that's what I loved the most. I loved just
Oh,
building a
those
rapport.
genuine,
Yeah.
those genuine connections. I guess I also learned the importance of purpose, I guess.
And what do you mean by that?
That even though it was so wonderful to take that risk and learn about this new industry and challenge myself, it never, and like I said, I had wonderful clients and made amazing lifelong friendships. It just was not like 100% fulfilling in the way of the impact that I wanted to make. So I did learn from that experience that although it was fulfilling in some ways and it was lucrative in some ways and rewarding in some ways, I needed more. So I guess that's something that I learned from my 6 years of running that business, that I just had more of an impact I wanted to make.
That's cool. I was wondering like what the similarities were between like you as an artist using flowers and using painting as different mediums. Like what are you ultimately trying to do with these different mediums and the things that you create with them?
Mm-hmm. I mean, one other thing that I actually realized, just looking back at how I operated as a new business owner, just looking back, I've learned the importance of leadership and confidence and patience and the importance of building a team and understanding what your clients want. Like those are all things that when I look back at my time, and I got to tell you, like from making all of these shifts, it is actually hard for me to even remember this life that I had as a florist only a year ago, because I feel like I've just made this, I don't know, everything that's happened with the pandemic, I feel has just like forced us to just become, I don't know, different versions of ourselves. I don't know if you feel the same.
I definitely think there's an opportunity there to become an updated new version of yourself. And it's kind of your choice, your decision, what that version is going to look like.
Yeah,
exactly. It's just like a reframe of your perspective on things. When the norm that we were just so used to and took for granted kind of gets removed, it forces like a perception shift, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. So looking back, like I'm just realizing, I'm seeing all of these similarities between where I am right now with the business that I'm building now compared to the business that I had then. And like, in essence, it's all the same sort of fundamentals. You know, you need to be a strong leader. You need to understand your clients. You need to build a strong team. I mean, I actually never did that with Floral. And I think that made a big difference. I never built a strong foundation of that team and that support. Yeah.
Do you think like when you started that business, were you in touch with the purpose of it, or did you just kind of just went with it? And that's just something like we've learned in building a business, is creating that like purpose, like connecting the purpose to the work you're doing. And it's something that can get so easily overlooked. But when it's not there, you can see why, especially in like a demanding business like floral design, why if the purpose isn't there, it would kind of fizzle out for you.
100%. I also I only started doing mindset work at the very end of my floral journey.
Right.
So I feel like I was just sort of going blindly through my day to day as a florist. And so there wasn't that purpose. There wasn't anything really driving me every day. I was just trying to keep my head above water. And like I said, when my priorities changed after having my son, I didn't realize that even though I loved aspects of the business, I loved my clients, if I said yes to an opportunity, I was saying no to my family. So like, I didn't realize that subconsciously I was closing the business with it. Yeah. I hate to say it, but I felt like I was almost like sabotaging the business just so that I could have that time back with my son and my husband.
Wow.
Yeah. So nearing the end, so I found like I was doing huge events as a florist. And then I was actually noticing a florist friend of mine who was just like killing it. She was newer to the industry and she was just excelling. And I had asked her, like, what are you doing? What is your secret? And she was actually like she was invested in mindset coaching. And she was just operating on a completely different frequency. Her level of awareness was just like so much greater than mine. I mean, I had none. I was just chasing my tail basically every day. I immediately followed in her footsteps. I invested in mindset coaching as well. And I actually ended up having the best 3 months of revenue just from when I started.
Interesting.
And over the winter, which is a very quiet time for florists. So I actually made my most money in those months. And then
not a coincidence, I'm sure.
Not a coincidence. And then the pandemic happened. Yeah.
Wow. So when you started with the painting practice, you now have mindset coaching under your belt going into that. So how did you approach it differently than you did when you started the floral business?
Well, I mean, so it's funny. Like when I used to paint, that was 12 years ago. I was, kind of freshly out of art school. And that was just all that I did. I was just a painter. And I did not have any mindset work going on at that time at all. I'd sleep in late. I was undisciplined, unmotivated, but actually very confident as a painter. But this time around, I had the mindset to push me very like courageously towards opening up an art practice. So I had all of those things in place. I was very disciplined, waking up early, in the studio early, like organized, efficient, all of that, but zero confidence as an artist. And I think we, as we get older, unless we've got that mindset work going for us, and unless we have a mentor helping us through the process, we get in our own way. I definitely think that knowing how powerful the mind is and how powerful our thoughts are, I definitely approached my art practice from a place of mindfulness is the easiest way to say it. I definitely paid more attention to what I was thinking and what I was believing. I noticed, I guess, my level of awareness had increased to the point where I was able to course correct very quickly. And I kind of knew how I could correct things. Whereas 6 years earlier, starting off as a florist, I had no idea. Like, unless you're studying, unless you're aware of mindset, like you just have how would you ever know to think differently? Because you don't even know that that's the starting point.
No awareness. Yeah.
No awareness.
Would you say that in the past you would have kind of let your feelings guide you more than now?
Absolutely. I would have let all of my anxieties make my decisions. I would have procrastinated. I would have, that's old me. So like with the art practice, if I came across a challenge or like I just very quickly was able to recognize that it was my internal, thought process and my limited beliefs. And I had the tools from the mindset program to shift very quickly. Like I knew how to change that way of thinking in order to change the result. So I actually, one thing that was quite interesting, like I found that I couldn't finish a painting. Like it was just a terrible habit of starting a painting. My thoughts would just, start going wild. I started thinking like, who's going to buy this?
Gosh.
Who who's going to buy this?
Imposter syndrome.
Yeah, imposter syndrome. Like, is this really good enough? Like, is anyone actually going to pay money for this? Like, maybe you should look at Instagram for the 10th time and see how someone else is doing it. And that obviously wasn't working for me. Like, I was painting over paintings. I was starting and then like just putting the painting away and starting a new one. And like, paints are expensive. That was no way to run a business. So I actually had to, and this is a tool that I obviously know from mindset work. I had to write out an affirmation about how I was a strong artist, how I was confident, and I knew exactly what I was doing. And this, this power, it could sound woo-woo, but I absolutely believe in it, and it works. This power was flowing through me and through my hands, through the paint onto the canvas. And
oh my gosh, love that.
Yeah, that I knew exactly what I was doing, and that I'll know exactly when I'm finished, and whoever I'm painting this for is already like waiting for it, like all of these things.
Oh my
That's
gosh.
so good.
That,
which I guess to loop back, sorry, to what we were talking about at the beginning of the C-type version of yourself, like that is a good example of what a C-type version of yourself would be, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I had to write this down, and I recorded it, and I would listen to it, and I would listen to it while I was actually painting.
Wow, amazing.
Yeah, to actually finish a piece and finish it confidently and know when it's done, and to know when to just set it aside and move on.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah, it's an incredible application of the mindset work, if you ask me, because with my level of familiarity with it, it seems like you took like a list of things that you were doing, you spotted them, and then you reframed them and changed them into new programming that was going to serve you into getting the results that you wanted.
Exactly.
So it's a really cool like way that you described, kind of bridging the knowing doing gap to get to a place that feels a lot better to you, which I think is so inspiring, and I hope people are listening closely to that part.
I hope so too. And I think that that's definitely what inspired my desire to move into mindset coaching, was just my own experience in the studio with these struggles, and knowing deep down that I was the reason why I wasn't getting the results that I wanted. I was the reason why I wasn't finishing a painting. It was not my audience. It was not the possible future clients saying no. Someone looking at my website and rejecting my pieces. It was none of that. It was completely 100% me. It was not my limited talent. Like, it was none of that. None of those thoughts that I had.
Wow. Sounds like a moment where you really took 100% responsibility, and it sounds like that was empowering for you.
Exactly.
Oh, so empowering, so liberating too.
Yeah, absolutely. Because how are you going to sell a painting that isn't finished?
Totally. You're not.
Yeah.
You're not. Yeah.
So
we've been dropping this term a bunch so far in the conversation of mindset work, mindset coaching, which we're all familiar with, obviously, because we've done this work together in a group together. But for anyone that's listening that might not understand what that term means exactly, and this might be a really good segue into discussing what your new career is all about. How would you describe mindset work?
And why would people want to do mindset work?
Oh. Why the heck would they want to do that?
I say, why wouldn't they want to do that? Well, what I understand now, being a client of mindset work, is that essentially everything, all of our results, everything that we're experiencing on a daily basis is the result of what we're thinking, what's going on in our minds. Our thoughts.
Sounds so simple, but so complex. Yeah.
Our thoughts control everything. Whatever you think, it impacts like every cell in your body, the way that you feel. And that then makes you act in a certain way. And so when you go out into the world and you're acting in a certain way based on your belief system, based on your thoughts, you're going to get a reaction from everyone and everything around you. And that creates your results. And
that was like the most beautiful explanation, by the way.
So well articulated.
Yes, so good.
Oh, thank you. Well, I mean, I love this. I love this work. I'm up early in the morning, studying it every day with a smile on my face. And I was not this person before. I love sleeping. And, okay, so this is the funny thing. This is the funny thing about purpose. Because when I had my floral business, I loved it, but oh my goodness, like did not want to, I never had that like burning desire to just like hop out of bed. Then when I shifted into painting and I felt more aligned with, I guess I felt more grateful for that experience because it allowed more time with my family and it just more time freedom. It sort of like got me like lit more of a spark in me, but like still not enough. And then when I had this like big epiphany and realized the impact that I could make by becoming a mindset coach and teaching my own clients all of this beautiful material that I've had the privilege of learning over the past year and a bit. I mean, it is like game over. Like I am like nothing is getting in the way of me turning like all of this into everything that I imagine it to be. And I really, really want to share this material with everyone in the whole world.
Is there someone in particular you'd like to help with this material, like other artists or people who feel stuck in a certain way, or everyone?
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously I relate to artists. I relate to parents. It's funny because when I started off in mindset coaching as a client, it was all based on, how do I get more revenue? How do I get better results in my business? I didn't realize, I couldn't see into the future. I didn't realize that the pandemic was going to happen. I was going to end up closing that business. But there were the results that showed up in all the other areas of my life. That was amazing. I never took mat leave with my son because I worked all the time as a florist. It was a new business and I was devoted, and my husband took pat leave. So that really impacted my relationship with my son. He was so used to being around his dad. I was not really there that often. And so when I finally was like, you know what, I'm going to scale back a little bit. I'm not going to work as often. I'm going to spend more time as a mom. I had already created that dynamic where he actually resisted being around me. He did not feel comfortable with me like he did with his dad, and it was heartbreaking.
Oh gosh.
So yeah, back to starting off in mindset coaching just to get more money from my business, and that obviously was impacted with COVID. Fast forward, I've got these tools to now relate to my son more. I'm spending more time with him, and I now just understand the way that the mind works and the way that it just impacts every area of our lives. We now have such a beautiful relationship. We are so bonded, and he talks about, he's 4 years old, and he talks about the terror barrier, and he talks about paradigms and higher faculties and the power of intuition and imagination.
Wow.
So
wow, that's amazing.
That is amazing.
That's actually an interesting part of it is like using the mindset work to with children, right? Like as a parent. Can you talk a little bit more about that part of it, like how you as the parent can reframe things, and then how you kind of teach it to him? He's 4, like, so those are some big concepts to understand at 4.
Yeah. I mean, there's one law, because so in mindset work, I mean, we're working with the laws of the universe. One of them, I mean, everything's energy. So essentially, like, everything's energy. So the law around perpetual transmutation of energy is basically, I apply that anytime that he's having some sort of I don't know, like I can just feel like blood sugar's dropped and he's about to have a moment. I just, obviously I get him food, but I also
You should feed him.
yes, people. It's not just mindset work.
It works wonders.
Children need food. But I'm able to just like calm myself to the point where I pass along that energy to him. It absolutely works.
Gosh.
I use that at nighttime. It's so funny because sometimes like I'll I'll lie in bed with him and I'll be thinking about a song in my head or something funny, and he will start laughing. I know that sounds so wild, but like that energy, we're so connected now, that I pick up on that.
Amazing.
So to answer your question, like the clients that I would love to work with, mostly are parents. I just feel like your patterns and your beliefs are formed at such an early age that I now understand the importance of calm, empowering parenting from a young age. Like you just become that person that you're programmed to be at such a young age. So that's probably what I'm most drawn to.
That's so interesting. That is so valuable.
I'm so curious. Sorry, was I going to cut you off there, Kelsey?
No, I was trailing.
Okay. Perfect timing.
Are you thinking about your own child?
Yeah. I was just curious, when you were describing what was going on with your son and like having kind of like the resistance that you were talking about. I imagine that probably was difficult to go through as a mother. I'm not a mother, so I don't know, but I imagine that would have been kind of challenging. And I wondered like where your level of awareness was at the time. Like, did you know that your results were like a result of your like past thinking? Your current results come from past thinking, and that you would have the control or the ability to build this beautiful relationship that you speak of now through mindset work and being intentional and being really self-aware.
Yeah, I mean, yes, it was awful. Like, I'm not going to beat around the bush. It was awful.
Real talk.
Real talk. Realizing that I had devoted all of my time and energy to building a business, and seeing the results of that, essentially choosing the business over my son. I mean, like I've talked about this quite a lot where, everyone will say, oh, but you did what you needed to do. Like how would you abandon your business? You had committed to your client. So like that was a choice that I'd made. I own that. And I feel proud of that. Also my husband's amazing. So like I felt comfortable with him. That allowed me to just sink into my work and build the business. But yes, in those moments where he was resisting me and I couldn't even approach him to console him, I knew right away that I had to course correct, that I had to step in immediately and make a change. And thankfully, from what I know about mindset work, I knew that everything that had happened previously had absolutely no impact on what was going to happen moving forward. In those difficult moments, it was purely the result of the past. So I very confidently made those changes right away. I probably, that's why when everything happened with the pandemic and I was given the opportunity to shift, I was sort of grateful because now I was like, okay, I'm going to take this very important part of my life back.
And at that point, with your awareness of decision making and that you have the power to decide what you want to happen next, it sounds like you really used that in a way that served you to build that relationship with your son that you'd wanted so much.
For sure.
I just wanted to touch on that in case there were other women that could relate to that situation and let them know that it doesn't have to be how it is. You can take it into your hands and
and I'm glad that you mentioned that, Shannon, because I do remember very consciously thinking I am taking control of this from this point on, and knowing that it all stems from a strong decision. And I decided I had to make a decision in that moment that I was going to have a beautiful relationship with my son, that it wasn't too late. It's never too late. And I do notice that when I when there was a difficult situation where he was resisting me, I made that like mental shift, and I thought, no, this isn't how it's going to be. And I immediately saw a shift in him. It was like he picked up on a different version of myself. I mean, that is another example of that C-type version.
Right.
I was like, no, I'm a strong, compassionate mom. He is my most important thing, and like, screw everything else. This is the role I'm playing now.
Did you have to at any point like fight off the urge or like the temptation to beat yourself up over the situation, or did that not come into play at all?
It definitely, that was definitely present in the beginning. My husband helped a lot with that. But no, I think this work is so powerful that I was just like, no, I'm not. That's not going to accomplish anything. Going down that like self-sabotage road. It's just like, own your shit, move on.
Love it.
Honestly,
that's so powerful.
Working with children, especially like young children, is such a great test of like the relationship between being responsible for your thoughts, which then inform how you feel, versus feeling something and that informing your thinking. And especially with young kids, because they're emotionally unintelligent still, right? Emotions run high. They react very strongly. And through my parenting experience, like, I've always been really susceptible to my daughter's emotions. So when she's freaking out, it makes me want to have an emotional reaction. But so then that's informing the way you're thinking about the situation. But when you're taking control of the way you're thinking, that comes out in how you're feeling, and it carries over into them in that moment, right? I hope that made sense.
It totally made sense.
No, absolutely.
And it's such a great example to set to
Yeah.
for the kids to take responsibility. Like, you're the parent, right? Like, you have the ability to be in control of that. And so you set that example for them.
Yeah.
Right. As opposed to having the emotional reaction right back at them.
Yeah. This
Exactly.
is such a great example of how doing this type of mindset work not only benefits you, but the other people in your surrounding in such a deep and important way.
Yeah.
I think it's also, I think understanding how your mind works and understanding what we need to, as adults, to course correct and to sort of get on the other side of those feelings. I've been able to very quickly tap into that with my son. So, you know, when he's saying certain things like, oh, I'll never be able to do this, or I'll never be able to, it's like such silly things too.
Yeah. So dramatic.
Yeah, I know. So self-sabotaging. I'm like, I just know like the importance of like validating how he's feeling, of just being really calm, coming down to his level.
That's
and
amazing.
then, getting him to a place where we can just like make that shift. Like, it's actually so simple when you understand it.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's fun to kind of play around with that too. Like, I find myself trying it with like little things with my daughter. Like, one thing we always do is like, we play a lot of board games. So we play like snakes and ladders, for example, and she'll be playing and she'll be like, oh, I hope I don't get that snake, so I go down, you know how it works. And I'm like, how about instead of thinking about the snake, let's think about the ladder that comes after the snake. So let's just think about getting to that ladder as opposed to not getting to that snake.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, it seems so trivial, but it's such an interesting way to like kind of test that thinking out with little things.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, to give like a concrete example that applies to Carrie, Carrie was like, I want to be a painter, not I don't want to be a florist. If that makes sense.
Oh my goodness. You know that's the first time I've actually thought of that. I've just been on such a roll with just like transitioning like continuously into what felt right. That's so funny, Shannon. I've actually never even thought of it in that way.
And what about like the mindset work in terms of like when we're talking about parenting, like it carries over to our children, obviously it works for us personally, but there's also like our partners or whoever you might be co-parenting with. Like how do you see that transferring to like your husband, for example?
Oh, great question.
It's so funny. I definitely think I think I'm showing up as a much better version of myself. So I think that's having a wonderful impact on all of my relationships, especially my husband. I mean, it's been challenging in the way that, like, I mean, parenting stuff aside, but you guys know, like, just from our journey together, like, you've heard me talk about my goals. They're big, like, and they're big for me, which means, like, every time, you know, I come up with some new big goal, my husband's like, oh, God, not again.
Yeah.
I think he has sort of had to adjust himself to, like, adapt to where my mind is going and where my mind is shifting. The support, I'm actually seeing such beautiful support from him, especially with this, transitioning into opening up my own mindset coaching business. I think he just knows, like, big stuff's happening. That's happening,
amazing.
And you're either with me or you're not.
Yeah, come along for the ride.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that could be a really tricky part of goal setting, because obviously you want your partner, like your life partner, to be on board with it. But when you're seeing these big visions in your head, you can't necessarily have the expectation that other people will see the same thing and believe the same thing. And sometimes you just have to be okay with that and do it anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
show them the proof that it can work.
Yeah.
But that can be tough.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't like to say this or talk in this way, but I mean, it's just one thing I'm going to share because I think it's certainly helped in my approach to my marriage and any kind of relationship in my life right now, is I've kind of just stopped making decisions past today and tomorrow. Not decisions. I guess thinking or concerning myself with any events past today and tomorrow. And I found that when I set some big goals, that would have, I set a big goal that I've sort of just pushed aside for the time being, but I am going to still accomplish it. And it's you guys are aware of it. It's the one that would move my family out of the city. So like that has a big impact on other people, not just myself. And that was very challenging at the time. Like my husband was like, I'm good here. Like this is our life. This is where we're comfortable. Like, why are you doing this? So I love my husband. I hope we're married forever and ever and ever. But in order to sort of stay focused on my own goals and my own growth, okay? Because like I'm married to him, I'm best friends with her, I have my son, I've got this and that. At the end of the day, you're kind of just, it's you, and you need to stay focused on you. I had to sort of tell myself, like, you know, obviously I love my husband, I want to be married to him forever, but I'm so passionate about my goals, and I'm so committed and laser focused on continued growth and expansion that I kind of had to just tell myself, I'm only going to focus on what needs to be dealt with today and tomorrow. And that also applies to all the relationships in my life. So today and tomorrow, I would like to be married to my husband. And I know that might sound silly. And I know that maybe if my mother-in-law is listening to this right now, she might be thinking, oh no. But I kind of feel like that is a necessary approach to everything in your life. I didn't want somebody else to inhibit my direction, if that makes any sense.
Completely. I think.
Yeah.
I think this is such a relatable point.
Okay. It's a tough one to talk about.
It's a tough one to talk about because you're not necessarily saying that you want to divorce your husband. Like that's not at all what you're saying. What you're saying is you're not going to concern yourself with that. Like it's almost like you're making the assumption that by pursuing these goals and these big changes means the downfall of your marriage. But you can't assume that, right?
Yeah.
So why put your energy there?
Exactly.
Why not believe that by pursuing these big goals and changes, your husband will come around and he'll end up loving it. He'll be so grateful that he came along for the ride, because your lives are so much better than they ever would have been.
Exactly. And so, like, you guys know, like, we don't in goal setting and mindset work in general, like, we don't concern ourselves with outside circumstances, you know? And so that's such a great, like what you just said, Kelsey, is such a great example, because when I set this goal of living out in the country, and I wanted it to be a certain way, and that meant that we have to leave the city. Like, in my mind, because I had a limited mindset at that time, I thought, okay, the only way to make this happen is to uproot my family. And then, my husband was not thrilled about that, obviously. And so I had to sort of like take a back seat or just step back and shelf that idea for a moment and think, I'm not changing that goal, but I'm going to change the way that I go about it. And I'm so grateful that I did, because that was before any of the painting stuff happened. I set this goal as a florist. I thought the way that I'm going to achieve this like magical life out in the country is purely on the success of my floral business. Little did I know that I was going to make all of these changes over time. And I now have such a more purposeful approach to the life that I want to create in the country because of my mindset coaching practice. And I also know that you can have it all. You don't have to choose this or that. So now I'm like,
amazing.
Oh my goodness.
Wow.
Like, everywhere that I'm going right now is going to be more lucrative than I imagined. It's going to be more successful. So we can have our home in the city. We can have our home in the country. No one's being uprooted. And my husband is now picking up on all of that. And he is like so on board with everything I'm doing now.
Yes.
Gosh, that's amazing. You can have it all.
Yeah.
You can have it all.
It's not this or that. It's
it's so funny. It's so funny because it's so easy to get limited like that, right? When you have those moments where you open up your mind to realize, like, oh, holy shit, I can have everything I want.
We actually have to be pretty consciously aware about allowing ourselves to receive good in life. It's pretty wild because we're kind of programmed in a certain way, and without giving intention, like without putting intention or attention towards it, we just let the programming run.
Yeah, exactly.
It's also like why in this mindset coaching that we all do, the concept of like getting caught up in the how of something. So getting caught up in like, how is this going to work in the future? How is this going to play out? The more you get caught up in that, the more limited you become. Because you're not necessarily seeing all the possibilities yet, because you're not there yet.
Yeah, exactly. Like all these dreams that I had of this property that I want to have in the country, it was so limited in its potential compared to how I view it now. It has so much more substance now because I've learned so much over the past year. You guys know how passionate I am about social justice, and like had I just thought, screw it, we're selling our house in the city, we're moving to the country, we're opening up this retreat that's only available. Oh my God, I'm giving away all my goals, the details of my goal now, but whatever. I wanted to open up a retreat out in the country and basically have it serve wealthy, privileged people. Like that's what I knew at that time. I had no idea that the past year was going to open my mind up so much to the changes that need to take place in our world in terms of social justice and health and mindset and so not getting caught up in the how something's going to happen is so important, because I'm so now a year later, I'm dreaming up ideas that are going to help impact the lives of so many people. It is that's what gets me out of bed.
And there's that purpose.
That's the purpose.
Right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Amazing. Beautiful. Well, I feel like we could talk about this for hours and hours and hours. But why don't you share with us a little bit about where you see your new business going? Mm-hmm. What does the future look like for Carrie?
Yeah, and how do you plan on balancing the painting with the consulting? I'm curious about that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I actually don't know yet how I'm going to balance the two. And I've become...
And that's okay.
Yeah, exactly. I've become comfortable with that idea. I've sort of... That's the whole approach of let it be fun and let it be easy.
Amazing.
And also not thinking about past today, like what I need to concern myself with today and tomorrow. I was thinking a lot about like, oh, what are people going to think? You know, I've announced that I'm this artist and now I'm announcing that I'm a coach, and it's like, it doesn't matter.
Another announcement.
Announcement. There are going to be lots of announcements from me. I'm not done.
So get used to it.
I love it.
So in terms of that, I mean, I'm loving the paintings that I'm doing right now. I've got some beautiful commissions on the go.
Nice.
But I'm also, you know, really dedicated to getting my mindset coaching business off the ground and, you know, impacting as many lives as possible. So working with as many clients as possible. So yeah, it may just be a beautiful blend of the two for the time being. But in terms of my coaching, I mean, like I think everyone can use some help with how they're thinking and improving their results in every area of their life.
I feel like no matter where anyone is at, there's always room for more growth.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
So I work, I'm consulting on behalf of the Proctor Gallagher Institute.
Right.
Bob Proctor is you guys are aware of him. He's famous from the movie The Secret. He's how he's turned his own life around is absolutely inspiring. So between him and Sandy Gallagher, who you guys also know, like they created Thinking into Results. That is the program that I have grown so much from, and I am going to be facilitating that material to my own clients. And it is, I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful for being in a place like with my floral business that was not fulfilling me to the point where I pursued like the avenue of learning more about how my mind works. It has been a game changer. Yeah.
Wow. Very exciting stuff. Yeah. And no doubt that you're going to find massive success with this. So it's really cool to talk to you in these early stages, and can't wait to follow along with how it unfolds.
Yeah. Before we finish the conversation, is there anything that we forgot to ask you that you want to share?
Yeah.
I don't think so. I mean, I just also want to point out like how amazing you guys are, and how like you are like walking, breathing proof of how powerful your life can be when you change the way that you think. Because I mean, I've been on this journey with you guys for over a year now, and seeing what you've pulled off with Found Her is absolutely amazing. And like the lives you're changing, my God. So forget about me on this podcast. I feel like I need to pump you guys up a bit, because self-image is so important, and you guys are bringing that out in all of your clients, including me. So that's it. Thank you.
Oh my gosh.
That's such a
best compliment. Yes. Thank you. It's great feedback.
We weren't fishing, just for the record.
Yeah. So what do you want to say about us? Where can people find you? Where can they follow along with you?
I would say for now, I'm still using my Instagram for my paintings. It's roadside.studio. I would say that's the best place to find me. And then I'm just going to like filter everyone over to my Facebook. The name of my coaching company is The Curated Mind. So it's a private group.
Gosh.
Yeah.
I love that.
Thanks.
I love that. So it's already on Facebook?
It's on Facebook as a private page, so I guess I have to.
Okay. The Curated Mind. Okay, amazing.
Yeah.
Love that name. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Carrie. It was amazing to hear your story. So inspiring.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you as well.
All right. Well, thanks everyone for listening, and have a wonderful day.
See you next time.